Welcome to another episode on our channel. I've been waiting and waiting for this outfit to come, and finally I got it yesterday. And so I put the French soldier from World War II together, this time giving him a weathered look. And I'm really happy with the outcome. The outfit came as primarily a mustard color, but as I was doing some research on how the uniforms look, it there's a variety of colors with the uniforms, but most of them had shades of green or OD green or what have you. So I decided to change this color to green. So here's our French soldier. What I want to do first is get some close-ups from his feet all the way to the top of his head, do some side-to-side shots, and then get a close-up of his face. So we'll be right back. We are back, and the only French uniform I was able to get was mustard colored. And in researching the uniforms of the French armies in World War II, I noticed a lot of them were OD green. So I went with the green look and felt I had liberty to try to weather it a bit more, which I went to town with here. You see some weathered black boots. He has gaiters on. Apparently there were two different types of gaiters that could have been used, maybe more than that, but I went with these gaiters. Puttees could have been used as well, but I went with gaiters instead. You see the weathering on his pants, and as we go up, you can see his jacket underneath his coat. That's going to be a bit weathered as well. I mean, it's the same type of weathering throughout, to include the coat, which is flipped up, which is typical with French uniformed coats. You can see two bags on his side, each side of his body, and that probably would have held bread or food. You can see, maybe you can see the container on his right and his canteen on his left, but you'll see it in the side-to-side shots. You can see his ammo pouches. You can also see more of his color there, the full coat jacket there, and of course the head sculpt as well as the helmet. So yeah, so we'll do some side-to-side looks so you can see more of what he has on, and then get a close-up of his face. We'll be right back. We are back, and we'll go around here. You can see he's got bags on either side. I painted them a kind of a brown, grungy look, but they would have held food. Got the ammo pouches here. We'll go all the way around so you can see how he looks. You can start to see the canteen right there, and another ammo pouch in the back. And then there's a tin that's coming out here, which is his gas mask holder, his rifle in the back. He's quite weathered. Of course, the coat is flipped up in places. That's typical of the French coat. So yeah, there you go. We'll get a close-up now of his head sculpt. We'll be right back. So here is the head. We'll do one profile on this side and go all the way over to the other side. And there you go. So we are back and talking about France in World War II. We know Germany annexed Austria and Czechoslovakia, and that was in 1938. In 1939, they invaded Poland on the Western Front, and the Soviet Union eventually invaded Poland on the Eastern Front. There was a treaty between Germany and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union wasn't an ally until they were invaded in 1941, which is the same time that the United States entered the war, 1941, the same year. that the United States entered the war after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. But when Germany invaded Poland, France and the United Kingdom declared war on Germany. France actually did try to invade Germany with the Somme offensive, but they were repelled very quickly and eventually on their way back to France. And they just tried to stabilize their defense perimeters. They had some glorified trenches that they had built up over time, separating them along the border of Germany and Italy as well. But Germany actually went around this whole line of trenches called the Maginot Line. So they went through Belgium into the northern part of France, and within 6 weeks, with the Battle of France, France would collapse and surrender. But before that happened, there were allies that were stuck in Dunkirk, and there was a whole operation called Operation Dynamo to evacuate troops, Allied troops that were in Dunkirk. The goal was to evacuate 45,000 troops. And the Royal Navy, they managed to gather together 200 ships, 600 volunteer vessels, and they far exceeded the number they were after, 45,000. They actually literally evacuated 183,000 British troops and 145,000 French troops. Unfortunately, 80,000 were left behind. It wasn't a complete evacuation, but it far exceeded the 45,000 that they were aiming for. Eventually, Italy would join the Axis side, and eventually, after the collapse of France, 191,000 troops were evacuated from the western part of France. And during the time, 1940 until 1945, the French resistance played a role. And even though I had said 200,000 French resistance fighters existed, some other sources that I was checking with today put the number more between 300,000 and 500,000 French resistance fighters from different groups. And so they did a lot of work to undo what was being done by Germany. Sabotage, blowing things up and doing what they could. So there's always a resistance within France. So the 300 to 500,000 resistance fighters equates with the same number that was estimated to be present in Poland, 300,000 to 500,000 Polish resistance fighters. So eventually the Allied powers would come out victorious. But France was very complicated. There was Philippe Pétain, who apparently was a World War I hero, set up a government in Vichy, and his fighters fought alongside Allied forces, not Allied, I'm sorry, Axis forces, which is kind of shocking when you think that already French forces, there had been a number of people who had died with the occupation of France by Germany. French Foreign Legion had been divided too. I don't know if it was 50-50, I don't know if it was 70-30 or what have you, but I think it leaned more in the direction of supporting Charles de Gaulle, General Charles de Gaulle. But the fact that there was a division that was interesting. The Free French fighters or forces were the ones that supported General de Gaulle, who was in exile in in England. But eventually, like I said, the Allied forces would prevail, and it led to a redistribution of power. And unfortunately, we keep repeating history. Wars still continue to this day, and it's sad because there's significant human losses whenever war takes place, and it seems to decimate the civilian side more so than the people fighting. 75 to 80 million died in World War II, and the majority of those deaths were of civilians. So anyway, here's one last look at our French fighter, who I took great liberties to do some weathering on because I actually had a color I did not like. It was mustard colored, and I thought it more appropriate for him to be OD green. We'll be right back. I'm going to try to do this with Little Miss Evil here. This is our MAS-36 weapon, and it does come with an original bayonet. It's very thin and long and sharp, and I'll show you how it's taken off and put back on. But it doesn't weigh as much as the Mauser does. It is bolt action, but not straight, not a straight bolt. It has quite of a curvature here. The downside about MAS-36s were that they didn't come with basically safeties. That must have created some concern to the person who carried the weapon. But we display it with the bolt showing, but let me turn it around so you can see the other side. There we go. I'll try to get it fully in view. You can see that that is a very thin, long bayonet. I'm a left-hander, so I learned to shoot weapons this way, but when it comes to handguns, I use my right hand. My father taught me how to use weapons, but I had a BB gun that had a holster on the right side, so I guess I always just learned how to use it with my right hand. So it's kind of strange, but I use different hands for different weapons. But basically, this has a lever. You just press on it and it'll come out. You can put it back in this way and it'll click in place. I won't do that right now, but I'll put it this way and just have it click in place there. So again, when we display it, it will be this way. Little Miss Evil, did you want to say any final words? Anyway, the MAS-36. We are back, and as is our pattern, we try to bring everybody back. It's getting crowded now. It'll get a lot more crowded before we're done. So Germany set everything in motion by annexing Austria and Czechoslovakia in 1938. They invaded Poland in 1939 on the western side. What we didn't, or I didn't know, is that the Soviet Union, I was going to say Russia, the Soviet Union at the time, and Germany had a treaty, which meant that they wouldn't fight for each other or against each other for 10 years. And so they invaded Poland on the eastern side, which was too much for Poland. And eventually, like a house of cards, it fell. The Polish resistance fighting movement sprung up, and before the war ended, the estimate was that it was 300,000 to 500,000 strong. When Germany invaded Poland on the Western Front, France and the United Kingdom declared war on Germany. France, I didn't know this at the time either, that they invaded Germany with the Saar offensive, but they were repelled quite quickly. They went back to fortify their trench system, their glorified trenches that encompassed the border of them between Germany and the border of them between Italy. But Germany went around the Maginot Line through Belgium into the northern part of France. And within 6 weeks, not only did Germany invade France, but they won the War of France, and France collapsed. And Germany occupied France. But this is a French soldier from World War II, and eventually the French resistance would rise up and be between 300 and 500,000 strong as well, comparable to the Polish resistance. So it's an interesting set of dynamics, intrigue, complexities. Even France had its own share of complex and convoluted dynamics happening within the country, some fighting for the Axis side, some fighting for the Allied side. But in the end, the Allies would prevail and bring an end to World War II. So I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you have, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. In the meantime, along with little Miss Evil here, everyone, you can still see me. Have a great day.